First of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you showing up. This is my first live ever, and I decided to show up here today in this space to share with you a little story that not a lot of people know about me. And I'm sharing just for the sake of sharing, yeah? Because I feel like, well, it just feels nice and good. So, and I'll just be online for maybe 5-10 minutes. After I'm done, if you have any questions about anything at all, whether it's about the story I'm going to share, or if it's about anything else you want to ask, then I might answer your questions. Okay, so the story is about how I sort of liberated myself from the corporate world and sort of became a self-employed full-time yoga teacher. So a bit of background. I started practicing yoga in 2011. Before that, there were a few times in my life where I was advised to go and practice yoga, and I always said to myself, no, I can't do this. I can't sit still. That was my kind of block or barrier. And I can't sit still. I don't want to. It's so boring. I need to stay active and move. But things sometimes call us, and we find ourselves walking into spaces. And the space that I walked into mid-2011 was Namaste, which is the first official yoga school in Bahrain, Namaste in Bidaya, which was established by Zabar, my first yoga teacher. So I walked into Namaste, and then I started practicing yoga, and I didn't stop ever since. 2 years after I started practicing yoga, we launched the first teacher training in Bahrain. It was a 200-hour program to certify yoga teachers to teach other people. It's an internationally recognized certificate. And I thought about it, and I said, no, I don't want to be a teacher. I have no interest in teaching people. I did try teaching. That was the story I told myself. I did try teaching kids in one of my summer holidays when I was at uni, and didn't really fancy it, didn't really call me. So I was like, nah, that's just not my thing. But after a while, I did decide to go ahead and enroll for the training, because I was like, I thought that would be a good idea to just further my education and just kind of delve deeper into the teachings of yoga. I did that, and I was in a corporate job. So at the time I had worked in a couple of really good advertising and branding agencies. I've worked for marketing departments, and by 2011, I was part of the marketing team in a very prominent telecom company, doing very well, really enjoying my job. So yeah, it was great. In 2014, March 2014, I finished my training with Namaste, and I officially became a certified yoga teacher. A couple of months later, I remember it was a Wednesday evening. I had come back from work, and I was catching up with a friend, and my friend was asking me how my day was. And I said, it was was okay. It was just, the usual, the normal, nothing much. I did this, I did that, but nothing special. And then I just went on fantasizing, just randomly, for about half an hour, fantasizing about leaving my job and taking a sabbatical and just traveling around for 6 months and taking a million courses, taking courses in cooking and in massage and more yoga stuff and meditation and dance and all of the passions that I have and art stuff. And I just kept on fantasizing. I thought I wanted to go to Thailand and Bali and India and I don't know what. And my friend was fantasizing with me and encouraged that fantasy. Same evening, I went out with my girlfriends, and I just randomly threw that into the conversation, and we were like, "Yeah, sure, of course." Da, 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 da. That was Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I woke up, and my mind was set. Khalas, this is happening. Every cell in my body felt like this was right. This is just right. I felt liberated. At the time, I had no commitments to anything. I didn't have financial commitments. I didn't have social commitments. I didn't have family commitments. I was in the right place to do it. There was nothing holding me back. And alhamdulillah, I was saving. So financially, I was secure. I had been saving from my first job. I don't know why, but I guess I found out why. And I could afford it. So I decided I'll do it. A few weeks later, told my boss. He asked me to stay. And I said, no way. It wasn't on the table. And that was the plan. Submitted my resignation. I had a whole month of farewells. And I remember when I was telling people at work that I was going to do this. So I had mixed reactions. Most people were so excited, and a lot of people, especially married men who are fathers, said, "Oh, bravo, I wish I could do that." And so a lot of people expressed that sounded like an amazing plan, and they wanted to do the same thing. Some people thought I was making a mistake, a ridiculous mistake. A lot of my friends knew they were going to miss me. My parents were sort of in shock, but I didn't give them the option of saying anything, really. They were not okay with this, but they just can't say, they wouldn't stop me. They still let me go ahead with it. So they kind of were okay with it, even though in their core they weren't very convinced that this was a good idea. With all of that, I booked a ticket to India. I didn't have anything planned. I had my first 2 stops planned. And I traveled, so I went to India alone with a backpack, a very big backpack, but that's all I had. And with like little tools and small clothes. I started with a yoga retreat up north in Himachal Pradesh with my yoga teacher, Lucy Roberts. Then I found myself in an ashram for a month in Chennai. No, not Chennai. It's a place close to Chennai called Vellore, or Pidam. It's close to Vellore. And then from there, each place led to the other. So after that, I did a Vipassana course, a silent meditation course for 10 days. Then I found myself up in the mountains in Kerala. I stayed with an Indian family for 2 weeks in Munnar. And then I went back to the beach in Kerala, Varkala. I did my second teacher training in yoga therapy. and then spent some time in Bombay, sometime as in a day and a half. And then I finally came back. So that was a total of almost 4 months. A lot of miracles happened during that trip, and that's a story for another day. But I came back, and I came back different and refreshed and empowered. And I came back and I was going to stay for a bit and then continue and go to Bali the month after. 4 hours before my flight to Bali, the voice inside said, no, you're not going. Don't go. Cancelled my tickets, stayed here. My husband's with me in the room now. And then 2 weeks later, my husband and I met. Well, we hadn't known each other before, but we knew each other from Namaste. But we kind of met outside the studio, and that's when we clicked, and shortly after started dating. So there was magic there. What I want to share is that after that, I wanted to look for a part-time job and still kind of do yoga on the side. So I had never, throughout that whole process, I had never decided to be a yoga teacher. That was not something that I wanted to do, or not be a full-time yoga teacher. I still wanted to just have that on the side and have a part-time job and still do a bit of translation and marketing. And every time I tried to look for a job like that, it wouldn't stick. And instead, a lot of opportunities for teaching yoga started to show up. And I found myself enjoying it more and more and more. After a year, I was looking at my life, and that's all I was really doing. I was only teaching yoga. And that's how I started to recognize that that was my dharma, that was the mission I was on, that was the thing that I was doing at the time. And surrendered to it, and things started to flourish and get better and better ever since. I kept on taking trainings and teaching more classes and reading and educating myself, and fully surrendering to the whole experience of teaching yoga full time. So that was one thing. I wanted to share another point. I don't remember what it was. Yeah. That's the story of how that happened. And a lot of times when I bump into ex-colleagues, they ask me if I miss the corporate world, and I don't. I love being the boss of my own self. I remembered what I wanted to share. I remember constantly walking around the office when I was in marketing, and I don't like to wear shoes. The only thing that I'm comfortable wearing on my feet is Birkenstocks. And that wasn't acceptable at work. So I remember walking around in the office saying, I hate shoes. And my next job, I want to be barefoot. I don't want to have to wear any shoes. And that happened. The universe listens. That's what I've been doing. So I love that. I love the fact that I don't have to wear shoes for my job. I love being my own boss. I love that my marketing and branding and advertising experience comes into what I'm doing right now. So that nothing's ever a complete waste, but I like how that experience is invested into what I'm doing now. I'm asked if I miss that, being in corporate, and no, not at all. No, No, there's, I love feeling so liberated in what I'm doing. Even though, and I'm completely honest, even though the financial, aspect of things is not the same, at the moment my pay is significantly lower than my last salary, less than third, but I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't trade the satisfaction and heart that is put into what I'm doing, and that I work intuitively and compassionately and that I'm free to go on vacation whenever I want, or take holiday, or decide who I work with and who I don't, and decide how I want to work and what I launch into the market and don't. It's so precious. It's so precious for me. I love that. So I'll stop. That's it. That's the story. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, I'm here to answer them. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. In the meantime, I want to answer a question that I received before I went live, which is from Salam, my little cousin. I don't think she's here, but I'm going to save this in case she listens to it later. Salam asked what changed after I started teaching yoga. No, after I started practicing yoga. Salam, it will take me another lifetime to fully answer that, but I'll share. One thing is that I moved from here to here. So I moved from my head to my heart. And that's where all the magic happens. And I just feel like I'm in a lighter space. And in this lighter space, I'm happy. I'm way more healed. I feel thriving in my life. And I'm living a very creative life, which is what I've been striving for ever since I was little. Saleh asks, another fellow artist. Saleh asks, do you sometimes think, what if I stayed and go through the different scenarios? No, that's not something I do, actually. I don't think I do that in the what if, because I rarely regret anything. And I think I'm often focused on like moving forward and like here and then moving forward, what I want to do now. So what my what ifs are sometimes future related. They're more future related than past related. So no, that is not a question I ask. But if I had stayed, then I don't know. I believe that the divine would have chosen some other great experience for me to have, another growth experience. So I believe that I'd still be taken care of by the divine and still grow in a different way. The path that I've been on is just, the path that I have been on. KB asks, what's your biggest challenge when you came back from your trip? My biggest challenge. Wow, that's such a big question. No one's ever asked me that. I didn't ask myself that. What was my biggest challenge? I know. My biggest challenge was that there are people in my life whom I wanted to approve of me doing what I was doing. I was seeking their approval and their validation, and they weren't giving that. They were telling me that they were disappointed in me. And that broke my heart. And when I was back, I was struggling so much to do things so that they'd see that I am doing well, that I'm happy, and it wouldn't make a difference. And when I heard those words, I was actually told, I am disappointed in you. It was sort of like I was very afraid of hearing this. And when I heard the literal words, it just dropped. Like that fear dropped. And it didn't matter anymore to me. And it kind of just went away. Now, residues of that still linger sometimes and stayed, but the biggest chunk of that fear just خلاص راح. Good question, KV. Thank you. All right. Anyone else got any questions you'd like to ask me before I leave? Thanks everyone for being here. This has been my first live. I'm also working on courage this month, and this was one